friends you saw from the thumbnail, diving into Sonia G's new Mini Essentials eye set, as well as her special edition sets number 1 and 2, which I have not yet filmed a video reviewing those two, but wanted to include them in on the mix. And a huge thank you to Sonia G and Beautylish for sending all these brushes PR. I am grateful for the opportunity, and because of that, wanted to cover each and every brush, reviewing the details, showing demonstrations, as you know I love to do. So we'll get through all that information, as well as comparing these tools to the mini Keyaki sets volume 1 and 2, and outlining the differences between the handles, the finishes on the wood, as well as the bristle types and shapes. So if you're ready to go, let's do it. Back in 2020, we had the pleasure of experiencing Sonia's Mini Keyaki set volume 1. But at that time, for obvious reasons, people weren't traveling as much, we were staying put, and there was not as high of an interest for travel brushes. But now, my goodness, travel brushes or just short handles in general have an appeal in that they're easier to pack, they're easier to maneuver with, they're more mobile. You could get closer to your face, you could exercise more control because you're closer to your face, you could get closer to the mirror. Those are the advantages of having a short handle, and especially for a makeup beginner, might be a little more easier to use versus one that has a standard length handle. The mini Keyaki brushes, such as the one you see here, this is the mini base, showcases the Keyaki wood that is refined with Tonoko powder, and you just have this beautiful exposed wood finish that I think aesthetically definitely one of Sonia's best tools in her collection. Then we saw the Keyaki Niji Pro, the Keyaki Buffer, and I still want the Keyaki Sheer Buffer just for completionist sake. I know that's silly, but I have the originally sized Sheer Buffer, and I also have the Oval Hybrid, but I need the Keyaki Sheer Buffer. Hopefully still in stock. If it's not, it's okay. But because everything is handmade in Japan, restocking with the exact same materials isn't guaranteed. It depends on bristles, handles, ferrules, and overall capacity at that moment. And this is why Sonia wanted to develop a permanent mini collection that can be consistently restocked, used handles she can reproduce, and that feel special and luxurious. And now enters the beginning of the Mini Essentials series. The Mini Essentials brushes introduce new mini black to red lacquered handles, the same shape and size as the mini Keyaki sets. Different woods, however, the mini Keyaki sets use the Keyaki wood and Tonoko finish, while the Mini Essentials use maple wood with the black to red lacquer, same finish as the full-size black-red handles. The full-length handles measure in at around 95 milliliters and the short handles around 60. Full-length face brush handles are measuring around 90 millimeters, while the Mini Essential face brushes that are set to release in the spring will come out to around 60 milliliters, and for full-size eye brush handles around 70 to 80 milliliters in length, and the Mini Essential handles will measure to around 25 to 35 milliliters. The Mini Essentials eye set dropped on November 18th. This is a permanent drop, permanent collection, so no rush to purchase as they will restock if they sell out. We're looking at brown dye Saikaho goat hair for all 4 mini brushes. The entire set retails for $128 on Beautylish. However, you can't buy them individually, as well as other special bundle offers that Beautylish has on their product page. So definitely take a look. Maybe you might not want the entire set or want a set at all, but you can just peruse the availability and perhaps pick up 1 or 2 brushes and not the entire set. The Mini Essential Eye set is designed as everyday eye brushes that also complement the Mini Keyaki sets volume 1 and 2. Sonia was intentional in not creating duplicates, no overlaps, but to fill in the blanks, if you will. Or if you don't have the Keyaki sets at all, you'll be able to create an entire eye look just with this set alone. Beginning with the Definer pencil brush, bristle length is 6.5 millimeters, sporting a small pencil shape with a gently rounded tip. It feels dense, but with enough movement to glide along the lash line. You could use this, as you see here, with lash line definition, smudging pencil, which you knew I had to use this with Victoria Beckham Beauty Satin Kajal liners, okay, and what you see on the footage, cinnamon. inner corner highlight placement, and it also works with powders, creams, and eye pencils. I was overjoyed when I read that because typically with brown dyed Psycho goat hair bristles, it is recommended that you use them with powder products exclusively, but I think because the brush is so small, you can wipe it after each use and the bristles then won't break down over time. Again, I wouldn't stick this or wet the brush with like one of those activator types of formulas like you see in Danessa Myricks, her older lightwork palettes. I think this is more so to help manipulate product that's already on the lid, like you saw with the liner, or maybe just to pick up a Merit One pot shadow. I forgot what they're called. I am so sorry. Those types of textures, like the drier, maybe cream liquid types, I think are great with these brushes. And you'll see, of course, I had to try it with the Armani Beauty eye tint. Hello. And fun fact, Sonia was inspired to create the definer by those sponge tip applicators found on eye pencils, like the one here, like was found on the VBB liner here. But this is far softer, and my critique about this sponge tip applicator, especially on something like so soft, like the Satin Kajal liner, that it virtually just kind of whips it off the lid. There's nothing left, so it flattens the color and it doesn't leave it behind and just diffuses it. Whereas the definer, you saw how it whipped cinnamon back and forth, but cinnamon was still left on the lid. It didn't take it off, it didn't over manipulate the color. My goodness. And you see the shape and you think it might be stiff and too aggressive, but look at that smooth blend and movement on the skin. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. And we'll get into the comparisons. I have a ton on standby. Thank you to Sonia for outlining these on her blog that you can find on sweetmakeuptemptations.com. Thank you to her because knowing what I have to take out for the comparison portion helped a lot. Thank you, Sonia. But this has easily become one of the most satisfying pencil brushes I have ever used. And I have used a ton. I have a ton. But to my surprise, again, despite how small it is, despite the shorter bristle length, smooth on the groove, and especially if you had challenges in applying shadow along the lash line in a diffused fashion, it is just beyond silky soft on the application. It doesn't over manipulate the skin. It softly lays color along the lash line in a way that is color rich but airbrushed. I know. If you already use this brush, let me know in the comments because I think I know you know what I'm talking about. Next, we have the Target Builder or lay down brush. Bristle length is 10 milliliters. Shape is a narrow lay down, thick and dense with a stable tip, and it works in sections, inner corner, outer corner, as well as the mobile lid. Is used to build intensity on the mobile lid, precise placement without disturbing other areas, can define or blend the lash line, and again, suitable with powders and creams. Just remember to gently wipe the brush after you're done applying your cream product. And funny, Sonia for me is known for the builder concept in brushes, right? Just like more of a precise tool for lid shadow placement that you might not think important, but once you do eyeshadow and realize how essential it is to have a smaller brush that's going to pick up fussier products that have a lot of dazzle, a lot of sparkle, but it's going to pinpoint that application to where you need it to go and create that beautiful dazzling highlight effect on the center of the lid, as well as on the inner corner. And Target Builder is no different. It's soft, it's flexible, but like many of Sonia's lay down brushes, you have the ability to place color on the lid, especially on the outer corner, but now it's flexible enough to actually move that color through the crease, maybe take it here on the lower lash line, as you saw that I did in the footage. Fantastic if you want just a more robust placement of inner corner highlight, because you very much well can use the definer for inner corner highlight if you just want a little more precision with that application. Like, you're not about the wow highlighter on the inner corner, but if you are, you could use the Target Builder for that application. It really all depends on what shadow I'm using, the reflectivity, how much of a dazzle effect I want to create on the inner corner. I balance in between, but exceptional if you wanted to create a gentle smoke effect here on the outer lash line, not to have it completely envelop the outer lid, but just to create more of like that wider winged diffused effect on the lash line. This is a great brush to accomplish that with. Oh, the compact crease. The mini eye buffer, as Sonia likes to refer to it as, measures in around 12 millimeters, compact with a flatter surface, and designed as a mini buffer for the eye area. Think of it as the Buffer Pro for your eye crease. I know. Relax, calm yourself. You could use the compact crease to blend out your transition shades, buff out the edges without disturbing lid placement, quick crease touch-ups with shadow creases throughout the day, or you can build diffuse crease shades by changing the angle. Compared to traditionally shaped blender brushes, the compact crease, first of all, when I saw that on her Instagram post, I was like, compact crease, sign me up. You would think this would be unsuccessful in moving shadow here from outer lid to crease. No. In fact, it probably will be your holy grail brush. If you had issues in creating that outer lid smoke that gets out of hand, that gets too far out from the lash line and it looks crazy, that you like more of a rounded finish to your smoky eye, compact crease, man. And despite the shorter bristle length, it has incredible movement and flexibility, but still fantastic strength to at least place the color here so you could see what's happening. There's some smoke on the eyes, you know? And then you take the edge of the brush and it just glides. As Sonia outlined, it does not disturb any other shadows you place on the eyes. It just kind of moves where you need it to go. It finesses, okay? This should be called the finesser. Compact crease is better, okay? I'll give Sonia that. The way our eye finesser moves shadow through the crease without the final product looking muddy. Because you know what happens when you start with your transition shade and you invite other shadows to go into the transition shade. It can get a little rough. I've been there, but not with the compact crease. Compact crease will be responsible in how it lays down color and how it blends that shadow so that you will have a gradient on the eye, not mud pack. What an exceptionally designed brush. And it's on a mini handle. This is what I think Sonia's intention was, as she had described, because it happens, right? Despite our best efforts to apply the long wear primer and to powder and all that, the skin's gonna skin. And in order to combat those breakthroughs that you find on the lid, why not? If you got the mini compact crease on hand, just do a little dab or a little swipey swipe and you're done. Look as refined, refresh, ready to go. And finally, I know, control yourself, the soft blender, the biggest eye brush found in the mini essential set, measuring in at 18 milliliters, tapered with a dense core and flexible outer bristles. You could use this for all over washes of color. I'm thinking the Byredo Bibliophilia palette, upper lid blending, outer crease shaping, brightening inner corners, setting under the eyes, or soft powder under the nose. What can I say? You know, there's something about the soft blender that just implies security, where it doesn't matter what shadow I'm using, the color, the texture, the finish. The fact that we can use the barrel body of the brush to get that laydown of color on the lid, and the tip of the brush is beautifully flexible, but still will move that product well through the crease, as you saw that I did 2 sets of footage, because the first round, as you saw run through when describing each brush, I wanted to try as many shadows as possible, but I took that off because I got somewhere to be after filming this video. I wanted to hop back into the Guerlain palette and just do 2 looks the same and use these brushes, of course. And my goodness, what an exceptional tool just to get, again, that all over wash of color, but it's a beautiful balance between strength and flexibility. It's not too stiff where you can't move the brush across your lids and crease successfully, that it won't move the shadow well. It just leaves behind the most beautiful diffuse finish on the skin. Again, for you to achieve that beautiful professional gradient look that I know takes practice. I've been doing eyeshadow for a long time on myself. I'm not a professional makeup artist, just a professional makeup enthusiast. But to have the tool that helps achieve that is crucial. And this little guy, off, especially if you like one and done looks. Now, funny, I wouldn't use this with the Armani eye tint. I will probably use her jumbo blender from her Keyaki set. This is undyed Psycho goat hair and a little more durable with creams and liquids. I might use this to refine the edges, but I probably wouldn't need to. What I would do is probably use jumbo blender to apply the eye tint and then follow up with soft blender to apply maybe a powder on the edges, because this is not going to move the eye tint, especially once it sets. Once it sets, you're ready to go, and it'll just glide over that application and continue the eye look to how you want it to appear. And it is, my goodness, you don't need any other brush. I use this entire set to create the look you see here, and everything from the crease application to smoking out the outer lid to placing color. I just forgot. I use the VBB liner in cinnamon to apply a little bit of coloring on the lid and use Target Builder to move that cream around. But I followed up with that dark brown metallic from the Guerlain palette and place it on the outer lid. And the definer. The definer was the brush that just placed that black shadow on my upper and lower lash line in just the most softest, blurred fashion. That sexy but soft smoky eye, it just achieves like that soft sultry eye without doing too much, because I think it's crucial that you place black shadow on like the outer brackets of your lash lines to kind of create that effect without it being too smoky. Ooh, the definer. If you've been trying to achieve that look unsuccessfully, you might, and that's important to you, and you're like, I have all the brushes, but I don't have that one pencil brush that did what it did on you, the definer. I'm just saying, putting out there, okay? Now, to quickly go over some comparisons between the Keyaki eye brushes and the mini essential ones. In the Keyaki set, we have the jumbo blender, we have the mini booster, we have the flat definer, the detail, and the crease brush. Now, in terms of where the mini essentials will fit, soft blender could be like your finisher brush after you use your soft crease. Soft blender can be your finisher after you use the crease, or maybe you just want something more blown out through the crease rather than something that's a little more precise that you get from the Keyaki crease brush. If you want more of a precise application on your outer corner instead of what you get from mini booster is great for smaller eyes, right? And it's going to get right into that crease. This is more getting color more precisely through the crease for smaller hooded eye shapes, where compact crease is going to move the color a little more through that region, but also place a heartier serving of color on the outer lid a little more evenly than what mini booster or crease would. Now, Target Builder actually can fit here, because flat definer you can use for, of course, diffusing lash line application, inner corner application. Jumbo blender is going to be a little more heavy on the entire lid, maybe a little coloring on the outer lid. The Keyaki sets didn't have like a builder type of brush that addresses more precise lid color placement, so happy to now have it here. And the definer will complement flat definer, where flat definer is going to be more precise and I think more of like a flatter placement of shadow along the lash line, where the definer, because it has a wider surface area than what you see in the flat definer from here to here, also is going to be smaller and more precise than the Keyaki detail brush. Right? So you might be able to achieve, and you can, the same tasks with the flat definer as well as the pencil, but the definer, I find, just applies shadow a little differently than those two. I gotta say, you can still make it happen. I just find the definer insanely satisfying to use, especially if, as I had explained, you had issues in applying a shadow along the lash line, where the lash line just moves, it's not stable, that no matter how you do it, how you apply it, it just looks messy and bleh. No. Now with the definer. So let's quickly cover the comparison. Starting with the definer, I have a couple here. Setting up the comparison rollout with the definer, we have Pencil S from the Fundamental series. We have Pencil 1 from the OG Fundamental series, and Pencil Pro from her Eye Pro set. Now, you might see that the pencil brush from her New Age Fundamental series is similar to the definer, but you see there's a finer point that comes to the tip where the definer is more rounded and therefore it covers more surface area on the same time, which just naturally has a wider lay down of product. The original Fundamental pencil has a super flexible tip, so not something I would use like I would use the definer for. Pencil 1 is maybe outer lid, application, just more precise. And for Pencil Pro, same thing. I actually will probably use this for a wider diffusing of a liner. Like if I don't want it to appear as precise as a wing application, I would use Pencil Pro to whip it back and forth with like the VBB liner just to get a more hazy setting or a more hazy serving of a pencil. Now for the builders, we have again Target Builder from Mini Essentials. Next we have Builder S from her Fundamental set. We have Builder Pro from her Pro Eye set, and Flat Definer, which you saw in the Mini Keyaki set but with undyed goat hair. And Target Builder, I would say, probably resembles Builder S from the Fundamental set, but you see it's not as wide. Length is similar, but it's a little longer and probably more precise. And it doesn't have the shorter handle. Now this next one's fun. Okay, we got Compact Crease. Next we have the Keyaki Kakishibu T3. We have the Pencil L from the Fundamental set, and the blender from the Summer Koi set, which was limited edition, also with Kakishibu dyed bristles, as you see here from T3, but my T3 is dirty. I'm sorry. The Compact Crease is, I think, most similar to the Summer Koi brush. So if you missed out on this brush, probably a great opportunity to experience something similar like you would have from the Summer Koi crease brush. I would say Summer Koi is a little more dense. It doesn't have the same movement capacity as Compact Crease. Compact Crease, despite it looking similar to this brush, has a little more movement there in the application. So I think that'll be great use for you, because if you like the Summer Koi brush or you didn't grab it and you wanted something similar, you might want to pick up Compact Crease. And compared to T3, T3 was one of my most favorite eye brushes from the Kakishibu eye set. It has more of a pointed tip. So this is going to be a little more precise through the crease simply because of that shape, whereas the Compact Crease is more rounded through the top. I think it will be better if you're looking for a more even of application for eyeshadow on the outer lid, that you could just pack it in and then move it through the crease, where you would use the barrel of the TF3 to get the color on there first and then use the brush through the crease. And it is a little larger, so if you wanted something more precise for outer lid and crease placement from outer lid to crease transition, then Compact Crease is going to do just that. And finally, we have our soft builder, of course. Next, we have our classic crease from the Sky Eye set. We have Crease Pro from our Eye Pro set. We have Jumbo Blender, one of my most favorites. And we have the recently released T8, the new addition to the Kakishibu Keyaki set. You're probably thinking that soft blender best resembles the T8. Now the T8 is a little larger and a little more dense. So this is going to be more of a buffer eye brush than the soft blender. Soft blender definitely more airy and lightweight on the application as well as on the shadow pickup. This is going to pick up a lot more shadow, and one that I would use with tighter baked textures. Soft blender, I don't think is going to be great with like the baked Chanel shadows, for instance, unless the powder is soft, right? This is great for those powders that are probably too soft, and when you pick it up with something as dense like the T8, it will be too much color on the application, and then you just have to keep blending. You wouldn't have to do that with T8 anyway, but as an example. So that will be the main comparison. If you have T8 and you're worried that you're replicating the role of the T8, if you get the soft blender, you're not. Soft blender is airier, more flexible in the movement, in the blend, in the application, so no need to worry about that. And also it has a finer tip compared to the Crease Pro and the classic crease from the Sky Eye set. If you wanted something a little more precise from that tip, in, trying to get color right there through the crease, whereas you're going to get more of a rounded feel through the blend with these two. And now we arrive to the Mini Essentials Special Edition set number 1. It is limited. Sonia just kind of wanted to test the waters, but she did say that permanent essential mini face brushes are coming. These release on October 20th. Again, they're limited and you could either buy them individually or as a duo. The Fusion Soft Concealer we saw from her Fusion Face set that released a few years back, but this time with a shorter mini essential handle. The soft concealer brush is a mixture of natural goat hair and synthetic fibers, very soft with a silky glide, dense with movement, and it stays locked on the target area but flexes to adapt to the skin. You could use this to apply concealer and corrector around the eyes. I use this to blend out my Burberry concealer, pinpoint concealing around the nose or small areas. You can place cream highlight before you blend, as I did here with the Victoria Beckham Beauty Reflect Highlighter Stick. And this is friendly on sensitive skin or textured under eyes. If you wanted more of a denser brush to blend out your concealer, but you had that sensitive skin under the eyes, or you don't like to use too flexible of a brush because you want some coverage there, soft concealer. And now the Mini Oval Hybrid. The Oval Hybrid is a stippling brush with both natural and synthetic bristles designed to sit between the original sheer buffer and mini sheer buffer in size and intensity. Again, a mixture of goat and synthetic fibers. The ferrule is pinched, giving it an oval surface. Natural bristles are shorter and denser than on the sheer buffer, and synthetic bristles form a slightly shorter shield layer. You could use the Oval Hybrid with cream bronzer, or as I did here with my beloved Dior Soft Filter Liquid Blush in Oud. Any cream product where you want structure but not full opacity that you would get from the sheer buffer. So sheer buffer is if you want more of like that wash of color that I demonstrated here applying the Westman Atelier liquid bronzer drops that I haven't used in months, ever since I bought it last spring. Oops. But this is the type of brush that you use with products that you're like, don't want a lot of, but you just want that sheer light watercolor effect. That's what the sheer buffer is going to do compared to the Oval Hybrid buffer. And the mini sheer buffer is smaller and more targeted. Because of the smaller size, it's just going to pick up product and place it in a more concentrated fashion, as I did here in the hollows of the cheeks. You could also use it to apply cream blush, as I have in the past. I use mini buffer to apply the Victoria Beckham Beauty Color Wash liquid blushes that have a lot of movement. And if I want it more like a sheer wash, I will go with the sheer buffer. If I wanted something intermediate, Oval Hybrid. If I wanted something a little more precise and color heavy from that product, mini buffer. And now we have arrived. Mini Essentials Special Edition number 2, Arch Powder and Set in Sculpt. I know I'm not ready either. These again launched with the Mini Essentials Eye Set on November 18th, and they are limited again. Let me say it again. Special edition set number 2 is limited, okay? The Arch Powder will be the more expensive brush at $125, Set in Sculpt at $42. You can either buy them individually or as a duo. Now, what's special about these? The bristle blend. Oh my heavens. A mixture between brown dyed Psycho goat hair and Kakishibu dyed goat hair, okay? You get an airiness but controlled application that's softer and more flexible than 100% Kakishibu, but more structured than 100% brown goat hair. Ideal for the in-between jobs where you want lightness and diffusion but still a bit of grip and control. Arch Powder, you got your big mama powder brush, a custom arch ferrule pinched at the base, wide and airy from the front, slimmer profile from the side, but more targeted work. You could use this for all over face powder. Bronzer, I use this with the Givenchy Prism Libre bronzer that I picked up in the last Sephora sale. And Sonia writes, especially if shades run a bit dark, this is what I wanted the Arch Powder for, because yes, depending on the brush, this bronzer could look quite intense and toasty on my complexion. And mind you, I already had the Westman Atelier drops on, okay? If you saw the footage run from when I started, I applied more bronzer on the bronzer. And Arch Powder managed to apply in a sheer fashion that still allowed color, that still allowed that sun-kissed look without appearing heavy on the skin. So if you want that wide, diffuse blush placement, this is for you. And Sonia writes that it behaves like a squirrel adjacent brush in terms of airiness, but with the practicality of goat, especially if your base is dry or tacky. So that's fantastic, because if you're one to not wait until your foundation sets completely, but what you would like to set it, arch powder is not going to just collapse on the skin, but will allow the powder to blend evenly and the brush will still function well. Now, as far as comparisons, let's start with the Keyaki Niji. You can see this is all brown dyed goat hair and the bristles are a little shorter, and this is going to be more of a buffer brush, and I use this to ensure that everything that I applied, okay, because I applied a lot of stuff on the cheeks. I wanted to use Niji Pro to ensure that everything looked buff and smooth. Arch powder is not going to feel as strong and precise as the Niji Pro. I would use this as probably a softer diffusing of color. Like if you don't have a ton of makeup on and you just want a light finishing, sure, you could use arch powder for that. But if you want more of targeted hardcore buffing, Niji Pro. Now compared to the Kakishibu dye TF1, TF1 is still soft, similar in length compared to arch powder, but TF1 is going again to have a little more strength in the application. Arch powder, like Sonia wrote, it's not so flimsy, but not so strong as the TF1. It's just right in between. And TF1, you can see, doesn't have the same amount of splay as arch powder. So if you want a little more precision here in your bronzer application versus more of like a hazed lay down with the arch powder, and you're probably also wondering about the Jumbo Bronzer. Jumbo Bronzer is a slightly smaller brush with slightly smaller bristles, and this is definitely more of a bronzer brush that's going to be precise, a little more precise than TF1. It's not going to have the same flexibility and airiness you feel in the arch powder. Jumbo Bronzer is, in my opinion, more suitable for just bronzer application. You could use it for other things for sure. All over powder, especially if you wanted a larger dose of it, more coverage from your loose powder or pressed powder. Ooh, arch powder. The softness is just remarkable. It reminds me of a silver fox hairbrush. It just has like that plushiness to it that's not flimsy and doesn't collapse on the skin, but has beautiful feedback and of course, color pickup and application. Now we have the Set and Sculpt, a smaller face brush, slightly arched ferrule, pinched with an almond-shaped profile. It opens nicely after wash, but it's never floppy. You could use this for a highlight, as you see here. You know I had to go in with the Givenchy limited edition Prism Libra holiday highlighter. Under eye powder, small area setting, soft contour. You could apply blush with a little more precision and great for touch-ups on the go. This is what was missing, in my opinion, from the Keyaki set, because I had the Keyaki set in my mini soft brush book that's also designed by Sonia. So in terms of the face brushes, I would use her Keyaki Classic Face and the Soft Face to apply under eye powder, which was fine. I made it happen, and of course I will make sure to wipe and then go in with blush. I will wipe again, go in with highlight, or maybe I'll use the Soft Face for any of those tasks. But now that we have the arched powder, especially if you felt that these two picked up a little too much powder, maybe you had to tap off or kind of lightly brush off before going in on the under eyes, because this just floats. It is softer, more wispy, and it has more of that diffuse application, especially with powder blush. If you found that this was a little too heavy on the color, although you could blend it out. Arched powder, also a little more precise for a highlighter for me. Again, I made it work with these brushes. They're multifunctional, and I was able to demonstrate that when I first reviewed these sets, right? Because I think they're either from value 1 or 2. Now with the arch powder, if you wanted a softer application of highlight, definitely with this. However, I wouldn't use it with something that's baked like the Christian Dior. This is going to be a lighter application, right? So if you wanted something hardier, I would go with the stiffer Classic Face, right? But if you're going in with something softer, like you see here with the Givenchy, this will just place it perfectly, not in a heavy way, but more lightweight, and it just has that glow from within effect after the application. And perhaps also wouldn't use the arch powder with, like, let's say YSL's crushed chili, but actually maybe you could. Just make sure you don't pick up as much powder, and this will be a little wispier. Now, it'll be precise by default because it's smaller, right? But I think you could get away with more of like that sheer coverage of blush that you want to appear a little more lightweight and just flushed out versus more precise if you were to go in through the hollows, which you can do with this brush for a softer contouring effect. It's small enough to nudge here into the hollows, and again, it's soft enough to not disturb your other blush cheek products, especially if you like to layer like myself. So you'll layer successfully, you'll create that smooth gradient without disturbing your other products, without disturbing your foundation. My goodness, too bad these are limited. Sonia, these are fantastic. Now let's go over the comparisons. I'm sure you're thinking about Mini Cheek. You're probably thinking about the Amoy brush from her Voyager set. You're probably thinking about the TF4. So between all these, TF4 is going to be more precise. You can see that it doesn't have the same splay. So this will be more precise through the hollows as well as through the cheeks. Mini Cheek also doesn't have the same splay, but it is more flexible than the TF4. I would say this best mostly resembles the Amoy brush. Now the Amoy brush is all squirrel. This will be far softer and silkier than the Arch Powder and would just have more flexibility. This is going to be a sheer coverage brush. If you want more sheer levels of coverage for your bronzer, even through the hollows, you could take it around and move the product well. You get it where it needs to go for highlighter, for blush, even for a wispy application under the eyes or all over the face. Arch Powder is going to give you a little bit more color. You can see it's a longer brush, so it has that beautiful flexibility. Despite this not being made of squirrel, feels lighter because it doesn't have the same amount of bristles as what's found in the Amoy, I believe, just based off feel. So if you have the Amoy brush, you don't need the Arch Powder, but because it's a short handle and is mixed with brown dyed goat hair and Kakishibu dyed goat hair, it's just so hard to resist. And I think that's it. Those are all the details, the demonstrations, the comparisons. I hope this video helped in you trying to decide which brush is best for you. Again, don't feel compelled to buy everything. Just buy what you think your collection might be missing. That there's a step in your makeup routine that needs assist, that needs a little bit of a boost, that there is a fussy product in your collection. Maybe you have both volume 1 and 2 that I was able to successfully fit in my brush bag. And if you're wondering if the Arch Powder can fit, it absolutely can. You just have to be careful because it does barely meet the edge of the zipper. So see here, it doesn't touch the bristles. I think you'd be fine in packing the Arch Powder. Now it's so tough because I have to decide, ooh, do I want to bring Arch Powder as well as the Niji? That could be a little cramped. I think it's either or, you know what I mean? Because also, we have our Oval Hybrid. Oval Hybrid I use for foundation application sometimes, not just for blush application, you know? But now, if I were to choose, okay, if I had to choose what to place in the brush book, so I would still take Worker if I wanted to use the Armani Eye Tints for all over face color. What am I saying? Eye color. I have to take Compact Crease. Compact Crease just blew me away. I'm just gonna take all of them, right? I'm gonna take all of them, okay? I'm gonna place them there. Now, if I were to maybe choose the in-between brushes, I would probably pack Crease just in case. Because I have our Jumbo Worker for concealing, so I don't necessarily need soft concealer, right? I got the Worker there to blend out my concealer. And what else? We need the blush. Ooh, so I can still pack Set and Sculpt for under eye as well as highlighter. But now I don't need both. Okay, I could use Oval Hybrid for foundation, for cream, bronzer, and blush application. I think I might need, however, a more dedicated blush brush. So maybe we'll put in Classic Face. Ooh, that was fun. Listen, you could go with this however you want, but this has become my designated travel bag. And now that Sonia provided us with just beautiful tools at our disposal for not even just travel, but just to have a more secure experience with our makeup application, especially if you do struggle with longer handles, whatever the reason might be. These are just so fun to use. The baby brushes are delightful. Again, a huge thank you to Sonia G and Beautylish for the opportunity. I love to review brushes, getting into the nuances and just nerding out, because you know that's what I love to do. If you made it this far, make sure you like this video by clicking that thumbs up. It helps me immensely in letting the YouTube algorithm know that I'm fun to watch and will I'll continue to watch. And now we'll recommend my videos to other Sonia G enthusiasts such as yourself. And consider subscribing, because you never know when I'll be on here with more demonstrations. I cannot wait for the mini essentials face sets. And you'll know when that upload drops, especially when you click that notification bell. If you're a returning subscriber, I appreciate you, friend, for taking the time. But if it's your first time here, please stay, peruse some more. Maybe I'll see you in this video here. I'll definitely see you down in the comments for this one, and not here again next time.